Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee of Football. This episode of Coffee and Football is brought to you by the folks at MyBookie. Make sure you're in the game with MyBookie. Bet any matchup, hundreds of college player props, and much more. So I want to thank them for sponsoring, and thank you all for tuning in. I'm Blake Monroe, joined every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hampton. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking. Get your questions in. Guys, let's get right into it. Sark, of course, had a press conference yesterday. What were your main takeaways post-Georgia?
My press conference takeaway is that Steve Sarkisian is harping on his entire team. He's not pinning it simply on a quarterback or anybody else, any individual. He was harping on execution yesterday. He wants better offensive line play. He wants better defense in the red zone. He wants better running back blocking. He wants better play from his quarterback too. He wasn't willing to accept that it was one person or one area of the team that lost that game. And I think that's admirable because it's the truth. One of the things that we've talked about, Jerry and Blake, look, Texas has to execute better across the board. Really, since Michigan and since UTSA, has Texas executed at a high level in any of the successive games? UTSA, they did after Arch came in. Quinn was going off until he had a bad interception, then got injured. Arch came in, did great. But Mississippi State was not a great game, in my opinion. ULM was not a great game in some ways. And then Oklahoma was not a great game. And so Texas has had really 3 consecutive games where execution hasn't been ideal. And that's what I think it sounds like to me that Sark is trying to push right now from a necessity standpoint. And I agree with it 100%. That's the way to go about it if you want to get to be the best that you can become. I really like what Sark had to say yesterday at the podium.
Yeah, I mean, look, they this is it's a culture game. I keep saying it Saturday. And that is what's going to be the key here is how you respond to adversity is the key. I'm guessing what this Texas staff wants to see is their best week of practice all season. I mean, they want to have their best week of practice all season because that's going to show them where the team's mindset is headed up to Vanderbilt, which will be a tough game.
Yep. It's going to be tough. I mean, look, Vanderbilt's got a team. This is a big week in college football generally, too, Blake and Jerry. A lot of games around the country that are going to be big. One of them in College Station, A&M hosting LSU. That's going to be a big one for the Aggies and Tigers national championship / college playoff hopes. Missouri goes to Alabama. They're trying to get on track. Oklahoma last night announced that Jackson Arnold would be the starter in Oxford this weekend against Ole Miss. A lot of stuff going on right now, Jerry, in my opinion, around the country. Auburn at Kentucky. Texas, of course, plays Kentucky. Kentucky reeling right now. And then Arkansas goes to Mississippi State. Mississippi State playing better brand of ball right now. Arkansas coming up off of getting whipped by LSU last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's if we look at Texas Vanderbilt, as we look at the rest of these lines, and that LSU at A&M game is huge for SEC conference race, right? I mean, the winner has a big leg up on that. I think LSU's got a tougher schedule than A&M does coming down the stretch. So an LSU win here would give them a game cushion, I think, at the end of the day, because it's unlikely they're going to roll through undefeated in SEC play. Who is? But at Vanderbilt at Texas, so the line's 18.5 Texas. Alabama was a 22.5-point favorite, just to get back to reality here. Vanderbilt's 4-0 at home. I watched a lot of their stuff. They played a lot of too high shell against Ball State. Watching that game, Texas speed is at a great advantage in that game against the Vanderbilt defense. They aren't a pass rushing team. Their linebackers are really good players. It's a game that, they're going to have to bring numbers. to, I think, get really pressure Texas, unless Texas just does not play well up front. I think Texas will score the football. I'll be surprised if they don't score 30 points at Vanderbilt. What makes Vanderbilt interesting is they're different than any team Texas is prepared for this year offensively, because Diego Pavia is such a smooth operator at that position. They run a lot of quarterback counter. And the Cedric Alexander, the running back, the lead blocker for Boston LBJ on those plays, he will smoke linebackers and safeties. Like, he is not just going in there to put his shoulder on somebody. He is stepping in as a lead blocker with purpose. They do a lot of different things in that spread option attack. But Diego Pavia, lane integrity is huge for the Texas defense this week, defensive front. Huge. Kentucky, Deone Walker had a couple issues there, and Pavia took off both times, and he took advantage of it, and he sees it. That's the thing. He sees it. It's one thing if you get out of a lane and lose your integrity against the quarterback that's a I'm not to say elite athlete, but a really good runner. But you have to see it, and he sees it. He's an instinctive football player. He's not a big arm guy. They're not going to be running 18, 15 comebacks off the opposite hash with him. What he does is he just moves so smooth around the football field. Quick feet, quick reactions, just moves smooth. And Eli Stowers, the tight end, a former A&M quarterback recruit, it looks like a guy that's going to have a chance to play on Sundays. Is kind of that flex tight end. They do a lot of stuff within their passing game to get him the ball, and that could be tight end screen game. Heck, I think they've shovel passed to him on the move before, but it's not going to be much down the field. It's going to be a lot of rub routes, try to get him into the flat, just creating space for him. Vanderbilt wide receivers, not elite vertical guys. So I think Texas can be pretty aggressive Saturday, but lane integrity, huge for the defensive front. Linebackers diagnosing, huge on Saturday for the Texas defense. If they do both of those things well, I really like Texas' chances.
That's good stuff there, guys. And let me get this down here. All right. Bobby, this morning you wrote about execution over on texasfootball.com. And one of the things that you said to do was to look for examples of execution, good or bad. I was wondering if you could go a little more in depth on that.
No fumbles. Think back to Mississippi State. Fumble. That caught him off. Procedure penalties. Sark brought it up. His defense getting surprised and causing 2 timeouts last week against Georgia in the first half because they were trying to rotate in, and Georgia got him out of place. I mean, there's just all kinds of little things. Not dropping passes. Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue. Not missing blocks along the offensive line, and not missing communication with your offensive line and your quarterback. So there are little things when it comes to execution that I think Texas, when you add those up piece by piece, they become a big thing. And that's why I think it was really good that Steve Sarkisian talked about it on Monday as a focus for his team this week. I will say this, that those issues, drops, become really pronounced when you're playing a team like Vanderbilt that doesn't want to give you the ball back. I mean, they lead the SEC in time of possession, more so than Mississippi State. And Mississippi State had it. I mean, they possessed the ball a long time against Texas, right? We all remember it. Well, think about that. It lessens your margin for error. If you're a team like Texas, third downs become critically important. We talk about execution on third down. Texas was 2 of 15 on Saturday. They've got to get better. Now, a lot of that we all know is playing Georgia. I get it. And they've been reasonably good this year on third down, except for against Oklahoma and Georgia. So my point being, Texas has to execute better in key situations. They have to rely on their training. They can't drop passes. They can't fumble the ball. They can't turn the ball over. All of those things are important. and take on increased importance when you're trying to get back on the winning track too, and playing a team that likes to play keep away like Vanderbilt. Because all of what Jerry said about the quarterback at Vanderbilt is true. And Sark mentioned that. Kid's a gamer. He's got some grit to him. He'll maximize whatever it is you allow him to maximize. He will take that and then eat. So Texas has to be ready.
All right, guys, before we move on here, I need to let everyone out there know about MyBookie. And with all the excitement of this season, make sure you're in the game with MyBookie. You can bet any matchup along with hundreds of college player props and take advantage of their weekly risk-free bets. The best part is you can do it all anytime, anywhere, straight from your phone. Just visit mybookie.ag and use promo code ONTEXAS to get started. It's also MyBookie's 10th year anniversary, and they're rolling out the red carpet for bettors. Bet big and bet confident with the risk-free Thursdays. If your boosted bet doesn't hit, you'll get your money back. That's weekly, no sweat, win-win bets all season long. And sign up now using promo code ONTEXAS to cash in on a double deposit bonus. It's a no-brainer. Double the cash in your account before you even place your first bet. But do not wait on it because it's only available for a limited amount of time. And for those of you who've been playing with MyBookie, they got something for you as well. A brand new loyalty rewards program in MyBookie Plus. It's simple. The more you play, the more you earn. And as you progress through the tiers, you can unlock exclusive promotions, epic giveaways, and cash back in your accounts. Again, that's mybookie.ag using promo code ONTEXAS and get double your first deposit. Okay, Jerry Hamilton, what's the latest on recruiting?
Yeah, so we're pretty much in the next month of it's closing time in recruiting. And, NIL's a factor in a lot of these recruitments coming down the stretch, just being real. Texas had great response from the game Saturday and talking to, kids are always going to say great things in interviews, right? But I want to dive a little deeper, talk to people around the recruitments. Texas came away in a very good spot. They had a great weekend on recruiting. I know the fans are like, wow. Kids just look, I've said it before, kids look at this stuff different. They don't live by each snap, each possession, each quarter in each game. They just don't. They're looking at it from an individualistic, what's the best place for me? Where can I succeed standpoint? Who's going to develop me? And on all these type of things. And so Texas continues to be in a good spot for some key guys. Now, a lot of these decisions are going to come. Maybe a Michael Terry announces a decision in early November, mid-November, right? Joseph Mbaktu right now is first week in December. I think Texas, Auburn, USC, battling that out. We'll see if Georgia makes a late push there.
Hey, Jerry, he officially decommitted yesterday. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't been committed, but I guess officially he put it out. I mean, yep. So, and then, Justice Terry, I'm just being real. Does Georgia think they have to have, is he a must get for them? If he is, you're up against it. If not, see what happens with Auburn and Texas in that mix. And the other Riley Pettijohn on campus, Dorian Brew on campus. Do any of those, does Dorian Brew's recruitment eventually come down to staying closer to family and mom at the end of the day? We'll see. But Texas had a great weekend with guys on campus. Chase Sims was there, unofficially the A&M commitment. I continue to think Chase, in this heart of hearts, prefers Texas. Does that mean he's going to go to Texas? I don't know. A&M's been on him a long time. So Texas recruiting is going well. It's getting down to, look, we have about a month left before these, even if they decide, if they've announced decisions in that first week in December, you really are down to a month left of recruiting these kids. I mean, that's what it comes down to. If you don't know by late November, mid to late November, where you're at with these guys, you're probably not getting them. I mean, that's just a reality. But Texas is on a number of D linemen. The other key will be, who can Texas get on campus for the Florida game or the Kentucky game? Kevin Wynn, didn't make it in. Texas wants to get his father on campus. Walter Mathis, they had some hurricane stuff with the Hurricanes in Savannah, work related. They didn't come in. Are either one of those guys going to get in November? If not, obviously you're not getting them, or you're not going to have a shot at getting them. Madden Faramo, everybody asked about. Look, I talked with somebody in his circle. He didn't make it to the Georgia game. It was senior week. Does he show up for the Kentucky game? That's what's being talked about. I mean, if not, obviously no. Notre Dame over USC and Texas right now there. So who else Texas gets to campus in November is going to be big. But Texas is going to close well in recruiting as long as they handle their business on the field from here on out. Same as after the Oklahoma loss last year. You know, people are saying, how's it affect recruiting? It doesn't, as long as Texas goes on and wins games. And that's the key, is Texas getting back to the playoff. Now, I'll say this one last time, then it's time to move on from it. Texas is trying to get into Georgia, right? More into the Southeast, but in the state of Georgia. If you're in battle, if you're trying to battle against Georgia specifically on a player, well, they got scoreboard. And you know, that's one thing. And that could be a 25 guy or 26 guy. So that's the one caveat in what I'm saying. You have to take that and put that in a different category. But I think Texas put a great product as a whole for the university, the football program, everything around the city of Austin on display. A lot of people saw it, and all those kids and circles of people of the players were impressed. But I'll say this too. About a game like that, a singular prospects family I talked to, he looked out there and saw the Texas defense playing really well. Say, man, I could fit in, and I might even could help that. So kids just think about it different, and that doesn't mean that kid's going to go to Texas, but it's just how kids think about this different than a fan base's reaction, and that's always the difference in recruiting. But it's getting down to it now, and NIL's a factor in a lot of these recruitments down the stretch, and so we'll see what happens. But I do think Texas has cast a wide enough net in D-line recruiting that they can get 2 more guys and make it a 4-man class, and a really good 4-man class. I think Texas still leads for Javion Hilson. That one's scheduled as of today to go to December 4th. Bach2 scheduled to go to that first week in December. Obviously, I went over him, but it's getting down to the nitty-gritty now, man. I mean, all the kids are going to say great things every school they go to. If you just read kids' comments, who says anything negative? Doesn't really happen. So they're all going to say great things, and then it gets down to the real deal.
And a couple of follow-up questions on that, Jerry. We'll start with the super chat from Jason. Thank you, Jason. He says, to get to the elite level, don't we need to go all in on the Justice Terrys of the world and not just skill positions?
Of course. Don't you think, Jerry?
Well, yeah. I mean, no doubt. And look, but going all in doesn't mean you're going to get them either. But you got to go all in.
Everybody's money. I always say this: everybody's money is the same color, you know. And so
you got to go all in on enough of them.
Yeah, you got to. The issue is Texas is going to be able to have the funds to do that. The issue here is, can they recruit at a high enough level to get those guys? I mean, they were able to get Josiah Sharma away from Oregon, Myron Charles away from Florida State. Javion Hilson decommitted from Florida State. Texas has to recruit. If the money is the same, the player has to want to go somewhere over another place. And that's the key component that I'm trying to get at here. I mean, they are recruiting at a higher level. Take Georgia, and that can be legitimate all you want. The reality of it is that other than Georgia right now, nobody holds scoreboard over Texas. And Longhorns are doing just fine in recruiting, and are going to continue to do just fine, in my opinion.
And, on Justice Terry specifically, I want to say this one more time. Is he a must-get recruit for Georgia? If he is, it'll be Georgia.
Gotcha.
And we'll do a couple more recruiting questions here. Zane Petty wants to know, hey, Jerry, how are we looking for the 2026 class right now?
I think very, very good. Texas, again, has to handle their business, but I think really good. An offensive line, I think Texas is in a really good spot for a number of those guys early on. I think, running back position, I think Tashard Choice, when he targets his guys, things end up very well. I think Texas is getting great feedback from 2026 kids. I think one of the bigger challenges for Sark is what happens if more kids want to jump in a little earlier? What do you do? Because Sark loves the long game of recruiting and evaluation as much as recruiting, right? It's if you 100% knew who you wanted, you take them all early. but I think that evaluation process goes longer, which it should. But I think that the Texas is getting really good feedback. I think they're in a good position for a number of guys. But I'll say this on the majority of your 26 kids, or in recruiting right now, the majority of recruiting is, your game visits, then you have your junior day visits, either in January or early spring, and then you take your June officials and you make a decision before your senior year. I think that is where 75, 80% of the high-end recruitments are and where they'll continue to head. I mean, you could have 2-3 guys maybe want to jump in earlier. Then you have to make those decisions. If those are guys you would take now versus, okay, that means we don't evaluate fully through the spring on the same position. So we'll see. But Texas in a really good spot with a number of 26 kids.
And then we'll go just 1 or 2 more before we move on. Then we can always circle back to recruiting. Ralph Neely wants to know, did we pick up any silent commitments from the weekend?
I think, no.
There you go. And
but there were some on campus.
Yes.
Thank you.
There you go.
Just for clarity.
And then Jose Rodriguez says, are we done at offensive line for 2025?
Unless a Lamont Rogers or Fasusi picked up the phone, more than likely.
All right. And then let's go over to Texas Jasper with the super chat. He says, executions are about mental toughness.
Yeah, fortitude and being able to do something right, even whenever all the stakes are on the line. I think that Texas isn't far away from it in a positive way. But I will say this, that it hasn't been going in the right direction for the last couple of weeks, at least on offense. And that's the problem that I see. And I think that's this problem that Steve Sarkisian sees right now. He sees a offense that it's not just Quinn Ewers. It's not getting the protections right. It's not, holding up your blocks. It's dropping passes if you're a running back right now. Trey Wiseman dropped one and Jaden Blue didn't make one. It's the little things that add up. And right now, I think that's where Texas has to go back to the drawing board. And I think Sark's right about it, man. Go focus on that. Get better on third down. Make sure you complete the 5-yard out. Don't make sure you complete the dump down. Those are big things.
And then we got one other super chat, guys. This one from Chris Connor. Thank you, Chris. He says the ancient Greeks called it hubris, fatal pride, Saban, rat poison, Coach Irwin, smelling themselves, leech, fat girlfriends. I know Sark downplayed it, but I feel it played a role on Saturday.
Look, I just want to say this, Chris. I agree with all of that, and then you threw the leech thing in there, and I'm going to drink a sip of coffee to you, buddy, because that was funny. That's just true. It's true, right, Jerry? I mean, this is what we talk about. You get lazy fundamentally or lack mental acuity, and all of a sudden it's instead of 2nd and 3, it's 2nd and 10 because you dropped the pass. I mean, it's 1st and 15 instead of 1st and 10, or 3rd and 9 instead of 3rd and 4 because you jump off sides like you did on Saturday night. It's true. I mean, hubris it is a little bit different in that it's the idea that you think you're better than you are. And I think Texas needs to get back to the fact that they got to be young and hungry. And that's one of the things that I felt like Rod and you and I talked about last night, Jerry, is that maybe Georgia looked like the hungrier team on Saturday. Maybe they were just the better team, but they looked like the hungrier team to me, at least on not necessarily on defense. Both defenses looked hungry, but Georgia played with a sense of greater urgency, I would say. And I think that needs to get back into play.
It reminded me of, and I think smartly so, by Kirby going to us against the world mentality. John Calipari did it as well as anybody I've ever seen in college sports. When he had maybe the most talented Kentucky teams, and it's like everybody wants us to lose. No, the us against the world mentality. Georgia looked like they had that Saturday. And I think Kirby has drilled that home as he should, because everybody was picking his guys to be out. Season not going to make the playoff. It's falling apart. Us against the world mentality.
Yeah, there's a new sheriff in town, Texas, yada, yada. He played into that while forgetting that you got to focus on something besides yourself sometimes. And Kirby pushing a player, or Kirby having 12 arrests on his team since having a fatal car accident. He wants that out of their brains. And I get it. He wants that out of their brains. He wants them to focus on the football aspect. And he did that very, very well on Saturday. Really did.
And by the way,
Georgia's a good football team. I still don't think Georgia is going to go undefeated the rest of the way. There's something about their offense that just doesn't click. And somebody will get after them a little bit on defense. Somebody will find a way to cause some problems for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Carson Beck, and I know we have primetime dogs, some Georgia fans in here, and we love to talk to everybody. If Carson Beck doesn't start playing at a higher level, they could get clipped very easily, because
that game was there for Texas.
Or receivers drop passes on third downs in a close game that's down to the wire in a one-score game, and Carson Beck doesn't play at a high enough level, you can get clipped. It's not out of the question. As talented as Georgia is, and I think even primetime dog and the Georgia fans would say, it's not 2021 Georgia. They're not that level. So if you're not quite that level, you can get clipped if you don't have really good performances by your quarterback. Receivers drop. Look, those receiver drops have to stop for them. They have to catch the football on third downs. Everybody's going to have some drops, but you can't catch the ball in the chest third downs 3 or 4 times in a game, because if you're in a one-score game, that matters.
The most disappointing thing to me on Saturday night was that the ball game was there for the taking for Texas, and they didn't take it.
Yep.
So I want to.
You caused 3 turnovers from the opposing quarterback.
Yep.
Okay, that's the most disappointing thing. The game was actually there for the taking. Texas didn't take it.
And here's where you turn this around to this week for me. I call it culture game, yes. And I think for Georgia, it was an on-the-field culture game Saturday night because of all the reasons we just laid out. It's the same for Texas on the road. And look, they're not playing Georgia on the road. I get it. But I'm here to tell you, Vanderbilt absolutely thinks they can win that game. This is not Vanderbilt from 2 or 3 years ago. They beat Virginia Tech at home, who at the time, that was a huge win no matter what happens to Virginia Tech season, because nobody thought they were even going to be competitive in that game, really. Then they beat Virginia Tech in overtime. Then you back that up by your biggest win in school history. Oh, and by the way, the next week you went and won at Kentucky. They absolutely believe they can beat Texas. And the scariest team is one that believes in sports, period. They're scary. And this is where Texas, and I'm not scared, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, hey, a team that believes is always a scary opponent for you, because that means you have to play at a high level. Because they've proven they can play at a high level on their home field this year. So Texas, this is a culture game. They need to go up there. Offense needs to get off to a good start in the first quarter, in first half. And you can start to chip away at that belief if you do. Now, if this game's if you hang around and Vanderbilt's up a score because you're not executing well, then what does that belief do? Goes through the roof. And I know they're not going to have a lot of fans there, but they all believe they can win the game. So if you're going to go on the road and you're a top 5 level team, you have to take that belief away. You got to execute. You got to win the battle up front, and you have to take that belief away. You have to chip away at that in the first quarter, in the second quarter. And those guys Vanderbilt walked in the locker room at halftime and said, dadgum, these guys are better than Bama. We got our work cut out for us. That's what has to happen for Texas Saturday.
I want to add this. I think Texas is better coached on defense than Alabama, more disciplined, in part because Bama is going through a defensive coordinator change. And I do think that the consistency of Pete Kwiatkowski has helped this defense overall. They've steadily improved almost each and every year under his tutelage. The addition of Johnny Nansen gives them another element to that. I would add one more thing as it relates to Vanderbilt and what Jerry was saying about their belief. There is nobody scoffing at an 18 or 19 point line more so than the Vanderbilt players.
Yeah.
They don't believe they're 18 or 19 point underdogs.
Clark Lee's saying we were 22.5-point dogs to Bama.
Yeah. Y'all just don't appreciate us. You're wrong, and we're going to prove you wrong. So that's what Texas is walking into this weekend.
I got to respond to this. And every team believes they can beat Texas. Look, if you think Mississippi State actually believe they could win at Texas, you need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. UTSA.
Come on, man.
Monroe, Colorado State. Colorado State stopped playing its first All-American / all-conference caliber receiver after the first quarter. Not every team believes they can really beat them. Now, maybe the rest of the way they think they can, but.
Yeah. And for Justice in the chat, now we're scared. No, we're just talking about the game, man. What do you want us to do? It's not scared. I'm not playing in the game. I'm not scared. I'm talking about the game. Get out of here with that BS. Next.
All right. Well, next.
What's it to be scared of? We're talking about a football game. Jeez, that's just so ridiculous. Get out of here with that crap. Next.
Next is Bobby telling us about Flat Creek.
Well, I'm not scared to go to Flat Creek. It's a good time out there. I've been out there a couple times now. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin. They've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so give it a try. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. We appreciate them and their sponsorship of On Texas Football.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. And some more super chats we need to knock out, guys. And we're going to start here. It moved on me. Excuse me. We're going to start here with Jerry's Jack Links. And thank you, as always, Jerry's Jack Links. Says, with our backup quarterback situation, why don't we let Quinn get hit a little in practice to get him ready for a game? It might be worth it at this point.
I don't know, man. Like, not like player to player. Maybe you get the old pads out and smack the quarterback around a little bit, but
bull in the ring. What do you think? Bull in the ring?
I don't know. You know, like in basketball, they bring out the pads and hit you while you're going up for a layup and swing the broom at the ball. I mean, maybe we're talking something like that, but I don't think we want Anthony Hill bearing down on a quarterback that's not accustomed to getting hit in practice. That probably wouldn't be a good ending for anything.
Here's the reality, Jerry. There's some look. That used to actually be commonplace. Players would actually get hit in practice and in scrimmages. The quarterbacks would be live and all this other stuff. Now in scrimmages, they're not even live anywhere in college football. So, you know, quarterbacks are not live in a spring game even. Okay. So that is an older way of thinking about things. But, you know, I do agree that the physicality, there was a lack of physicality or willingness to engage in physicality or be hit by Quinn. And so that's a good question. I mean, you can't do it though. I mean, they aren't even hitting some quarterbacks now in high school, much less college.
Yeah.
I hate bull in the ring. I paid the price in high school. You're not the only one, dude. I got news for you. Head on a swivel. That's what that means. Keep your head on a swivel.
All right, guys. Our next super chat comes from Mac. Thank you, Mac. And Mac says, Bobby, I'm excited about Nashville. I'm bringing the whole family. What do I need to know about the tailgate, the party, the cost, time, location, etc., even what to bring?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm waiting right now. I'm still waiting to get I did not get approval from the folks yesterday. I'm hoping to get that from them today. Once that happens, I can give everybody the news and notes. But I will say this. The whole area is under major construction around the actual stadium. And so they are doing work on two sides of the stadium simultaneously. So any tailgates that you were to do in the parking lot are a half mile to a mile away. I'm going to try to do ours a little bit differently in a different place that's more of like a quarter mile away, but it's still adjacent to the stadium. So that's all I can say right now. I'm waiting to get the permit approved. I put it in 2 weeks ago, and they said they would get back to me in a week, and they still hadn't. So I put a call in yesterday, and I'll let y'all know as soon as possible. Hopefully I can make an announcement tomorrow.
There you go. And then Jeff Carey with the super chat. Thank you, Jeff, as always. He says, I appreciate y'all's excellent work. Blake, did you ever find out what Sark's top 10 record was at Texas? It's not very good overall. I'm thinking Sark came in with a lot to prove, and he has improved each year. So I did some digging, and I believe, and I'm not 100% on this, but I'm pretty sure it's 3-5 while at Texas. 3-5 overall against top 10 teams. So
not horrible.
No. Especially given that first year or so.
Well, the first 2 years they weren't.
Yeah,
they weren't a top, 15 team.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, and then Parth Brooks, thank you for the super chat. Interesting name. He says, Jerry Hamilton, great seeing you on Saturday, amigo. Hook 'em.
Put out another album. Great seeing you.
Put out another album.
He might be busy, tied up in other proceedings right now. All right, guys. Let's jump to some more questions here, and let's take this one from Marco. He says, last year I thought Quinn improved in using his feet to extend plays, and even he ran for a few long touchdowns until he got hurt against Houston. Why do you all think he doesn't move as well as he did last year?
Here's my thing. I wouldn't want Quinn running a lot. It would have to be a last resort, slide, move the chains, whatever. I don't want him trying to be a playmaker, putting his shoulder down. That's not him. I'm just not focused on that. I'm focused on foot quickness, reactive quickness in the pocket. That's my number one thing with him. Because if it doesn't start there, the rest of it's not going to matter.
And it's not just foot quickness, Jerry. It's also smarts in the pocket. Don't be leaving the pocket when the other team's rushing 3 and you've got a clean pocket and you just start moving just to see if your guys can get open somehow. You got to just stay there and then make a move. That's my opinion. I think it's also just having a better overall pocket presence. But we've talked about that. I mean, the question we have, and that I really have, Jerry, is can a team like Vanderbilt affect the quarterback like Oklahoma or Georgia did? I mean, Georgia did it extraordinarily well. Oklahoma did it okay in the first half.
Yeah.
Texas then got the run game going and slowed that down. And Quinn played a good enough game in the second half.
If Vanderbilt does, that means Texas probably had protection breakdowns. And I'm not saying Vanderbilt's terrible at it, but they're not that level. That's
no way
with that team.
Yep.
And then our next question comes from Drew. And Drew asks, what if safety depth if Makuba misses time? Jordan Johnson-Rubel would be in line to play, but who else?
Sark took this question head on yesterday in the press conference. He said that Jelani McDonald and Michael Taft would be the starters, which is not surprising. He said that Makuba, if he had to label him, would be called questionable right now. I think it's likely that Makuba misses this game, but they are hoping they can get him back after the bye week after Vanderbilt. So he said that it feels a little lucky about when the injury occurred because now they think they'll get Makuba back sooner and not have to miss 2 games, but maybe just miss 1. On top of that, he did mention Jordan Johnson-Rubel as the next man up at safety, and he mentioned Jahdae Barron possibly playing some safety too, guys. So don't forget about that possibility.
And I wanted to hit on that because that could be also a product of who they're playing this week and what they present offensively versus what a Georgia or somebody else presents. Vanderbilt's 2 leading receivers, Quincy Skinner, St. Thomas Aquinas kid, Solomon High School, good player, but 16 for 207 and 16 for 225. They're not vertical guys. They're not guys relied upon a lot in the passing game. This could be a matchup dependent thing too, where look, Stowers at tight end, Pavia making plays. That could, you might be able to play Gavin Holmes more at corner, get more man situations there, and use Jahdae Barron in different ways against Vanderbilt because of who they're playing and what they present. If Vanderbilt had a couple of really, really good wideouts on the outside, maybe not. But this could also be as much as injury. The result of that injury is who you're playing. I guarantee if you were playing a team that had 3 wideouts that were going to surefire NFL players out there, you couldn't really think about playing Barron at safety in that scenario.
And then Preston wants to know, might we see some Blackwell as safety in the box?
Yeah, I think that's possible in that play 4 linebacker look. They've done that before instead of playing Jalen Gilbo so much. The only negative there is that Vanderbilt really does use their tight end very well in the passing game. And you want a Gilbo like that rather than a Blackwell. Blackwell, he had a great play on Saturday, had that big hit on the kick return. But then he also misfit a run play on Travis Etienne that got popped for a 15 to 20 yard gain. And so it's been one of those things. Thanks for bringing this quote back up that's below here, Blake, from TR Longheel. I hope Quinn plays angry Saturday. Coach Royal said angry men win football games. I got to say this. Quinn had reason to be angry yesterday. Somebody hacked 24/7's Instagram account and put out, if you don't, some people are going to be unaware of this because they check in daily with us. The 24/7 Instagram account yesterday was hacked and said that Quinn Ewers was opting out of the rest of the season and going to prepare for the NFL draft. Now, the post was deleted within 10 minutes, and then an apology was posted an hour or 2 hours later by 24/7. So they clearly didn't need it, but it led to a number of questions about Quinn in the interim. What is he doing leaving the team? I mean, all these things. And if I were Quinn, I'd be a little pissed. He's given everything to this team. I mean, one of the things that you can critique his play all you want, and that's fair game. You can't critique who he's been or what he's meant to Texas Longhorn football. And so hopefully he's a little angry about that and takes it personal and takes it out on Vanderbilt in the process and executes at a higher level.
All right, guys, we got a super chat while we're on the subject of Quinn from Menu 2 Sports. Thank you, Menu. And he says, any intel on why Quinn didn't talk to the media yesterday? I can't imagine that it was a Sark decision, but if it was, that would be an issue too if he's the team's leader. I can imagine that's a Sark decision.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be a Sark decision?
Yeah.
And I hear what you're trying to say, but Sark, look, all that would have done, and you heard Sark deal with it. All that would have done. What did you feel whenever you were taken out? Were you just playing that poorly? What's going? I mean, look, he's already got it set in his head, and he's going towards the next game. All that would have been was fodder for media for a week and putting Quinn in an uncomfortable situation to talk about his play. That I get why they didn't put him out in front of the media, and I'm a media member.
Right. But to that point, if you put him out there yesterday, everything written would have been negative.
Yes, absolutely.
Period.
Because the questions that would be asked lead down that path. It's like there's nowhere to go with it. Yep.
After Saturday, other than that.
And real quick, I want to answer this because he's asked a couple of times. Roe, is the baseball scrimmage free to the public or pay at the gate? It is free. Gates open at 5:45 for batting practice, and game starts at 7. Autographs.
Like, what time are you taking batting practice?
I'll be out there knocking them out of the park right about 5:50, of course.
That'll be awesome.
And speaking of knocking it out of the park, Jerry, can you tell everybody about Duck Camp?
Man, I can. I'm staring at the Duck Camp hats right now. Duck Camp is gear made for people that live in the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, football to watch. They like doing all that stuff, so they built this company centered on it, based in Austin and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. There are those of you out there that look forward to the opening day of hunting season and to kick off a Longhorn football games with the fervor and excitement of a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. Man, I miss those days. Christmas morning, it's 5. And Duck Camp is here to let you know that from opening day to game day, they've got you completely covered. At Duck Camp, they believe you can't just sit around and wait for the adventure to come to you. You have to get out there, stay out there, and make the most of every second. Here's the great seasons, y'all. Yes, hunting and football, shopping gear. Shop hunting gear at duckcamp.com. And I want to read this one more. You have to get out there, stay out there, and make the most of every second. Texas football Saturday in Nashville, that's your job.
Good stuff. Thank you, Jerry. And we're going to get to some more questions here. Let's go to this one from Brendan. And he says, do we spy Pavia? And if so, who?
It's a really good question. You have to be very disciplined with that. I think you do in this game, yes.
Is that LaFau, Hill, or Benda? If you were to do it, I don't think you can really do it with an option-based offense.
It's harder to do
because they're not a traditional drop-back team that you need a spy on, Jerry. That you would typically get a spy on.
No, I don't. I'm not sure. I think Leonga LaFau has a big role in this game Saturday, so I'm not sure it would be him because the diagnosing is really going to be big Saturday because it's a little different. They're a little different in what they do. If you false step a lot against Pavia, you're going to pay.
Texas needs to keep those inside runs to 2 yards and not 4. Otherwise, Vanderbilt will just keep moving the ball. They rely on being in 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 3. I mean, go back and look at their numbers. That's what they rely on. And so, we'll see that. We'll see what happens.
Gap integrity is huge in this game. Huge.
All right, guys, and let's get to some more here. We got a super chat from Travis. He says Coach Irwin is 100% correct. Quinn is afraid of contact.
He played like it on Saturday. I don't know if he's always been afraid of contact, though. And this is what I'm a little that's why people have used the term regression, right? Because he hasn't always been that way. It's almost like he doesn't want to step into his throws because he's worried about his throwing hand, not necessarily even his body. Like, I'm not so sure him getting hit has been the bigger issue as it has been with his throwing hand going on top of a footballer or on top of a helmet. That's why he's short arming things. It's weird. I mean, I agree. But let's see what happens when he's had a time. He should have more time to execute. And Rillo's right. He just seems spooked by something crazy. Maybe it was the corner blitz. After that play, he did not look like, not that he was playing great beforehand, but after that play, he looked a little different in the pocket and was escaping more quickly, throwing off his back foot more, all of those things.
And then Gilbert Martinez.
Contact sports, so those things can really happen. Get cracked in the ribs once or twice. It's reality.
Gilbert Martinez wants to know, are y'all more confident in the defense or offense in the Vanderbilt game?
In this game, Texas has a big speed advantage on offense. And I actually think Texas will be able to run the ball enough. I think Vandy's got size on the interior. I think their linebackers are their best players on defense. I think Taylor, the safety, is pretty good for them. I think the Texas offense has an advantage in this game, but I expect the defense to play well. As any game, maybe more than any other game played this year, because Oklahoma was so anemic on the offensive line and they had no receivers. Everybody was hurt. this is probably the most important game to play sound football for Texas defensively this season. I would say that. And your front seven's got to play really sound, gap integrity, gap discipline. Got to read the triangle at inside backer. There's some got to really execute in your front seven defensively Saturday. I think Texas has a big speed advantage on offense in this game.
And Shillsbury, I see you put in a super chat, but nothing attached to it. If you'll send it normal, I will fix that for you. We appreciate that. And then Max West 5 says, how's 007 looking in practice, speed-wise, since his injury?
He looked fine on Saturday to me, guys. I don't know about y'all. I thought he looked fine.
I mean, look, normally Texas has guys in a boot, right, as a precautionary thing. I can tell you that on Friday, he was walking around without it.
Yeah.
So they were past the point of just having the boot on him, which was, when you're not, because sometimes those guys wear it and then they still go out and practice, right? It's a precautionary thing. He didn't even have it on Friday.
And then our next one comes from Zane Petty. Any update on Gillette or Bledsoe? How are they developing?
Or Jonte Cook. Jonte Cook, I don't think played on Saturday. Gillette and Bledsoe did not play either. And so I don't know what's going on there. Could just be behind, is what it seems like to me right now. Behind others. I have not heard how they're, quote unquote, developing behind the scene in the last month, I would say. So I don't have any clear update for you there. I'm sorry, Zane.
And then we have another super chat, fellas. This one comes from It's 420 Somewhere, and we appreciate it as always. How does the Georgia game affect Banks's draft stock? Does it make him more likely to come back for his senior year?
0%. No, he's not coming back. He's a first-round pick. He's fine.
He played, actually, I don't know if y'all saw this, but he was the highest rated Longhorn in the game on offense by Pro Football Focus. It's not. That one sack he gave up wasn't on him. He can't be asked to protect a quarterback 7 yards deep in the pocket 4 seconds into a route. That's not a fair request of a defensive line or of an offensive tackle. And he got the offense, and he got the defensive lineman on the ground in the process. That was that sack was not on him.
And then,
by the way, somebody asked. I think it was Josie. Asked where I'm going. I'm going to be on the road. I leave tomorrow morning. I'm going to be on the road for, I think it's 17 days. Now a couple of those I won't be on the road. I'll just be hanging out because you can't be on the road every day at schools when there's no school or practice or anything. But I'm going to be heading east along I-10 and up and about for about 2.5 weeks. We'll be reporting on that daily.
I can't wait to see the recruiting breakdown from your car.
Yeah. That's the only place it's going to be, unless it's at a hotel. Maybe from a beach. How about a recruiting breakdown from?
Ooh, that'd be nice.
We hadn't done that, so maybe that's what we'll do.
There you go. Oh, man. And then Shillsbury came back with another super chat. We appreciate it. He says, will we see a 6-man front against Vandy? Will we see more outside zone moving forward? We need some more Shanahan influence.
Yes, on the 6-man front, I think Texas is going to play to stop the run and make Vanderbilt beat them with the pass. At least attempt to. That's what Texas is going to attempt to do. Will we see more outside zone moving forward? That's certainly what Trey Wisner runs best for Texas. And at the same time, I'm not sure that, like, Jaden Blue doesn't run that play very well. He actually doesn't seem to have the patience or feel for it. If I'm watching anything right now, Jerry, and worried about the Texas game on Saturday from an offensive standpoint, it's Trey Wisner's health. Is he going to be 100% or is he going to be 75%? So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I'm watching Vanderbilt a little bit. I think it could be a Jarrett Gibson game too.
Not
because
bad.
if they don't present the same pass rush Georgia and Oklahoma do, so your freshman running back who maybe is not as advanced in pass pro, but there's going to be opportunities, I think, for him to run the football Saturday against Vanderbilt. I'll be surprised if we don't see somehow. By the way, somebody said I could do the recruiting breakdown from Galveston Beach. I don't want to do that to everybody. We're going to go where it's blue. We're going to go for the light blue water for the first recruiting breakdown from a beach. I'm not saying I'm Charles Barkley on Galveston, but I'm also not saying I'm not.
Oh man. And then Jeff Carey says, do you think the Cornelius Vanderbilt's going to turn out for the game, or is it going to be half orange?
Half orange, at least. Look, Vandy has lost their fan base over so many years. I told this story a couple of weeks ago. Me and my wife went out to dinner with a couple of Vandy grads while they were playing Alabama. Okay. And Vandy was up at halftime. And I was like, are you sure you don't want to just go over there to the game and see what's going on and hang out and see if y'all end up beating Alabama? And his answer to me, the guy's answer to me, no, I've seen this story before. We're going to lose by 3 touchdowns. Vanderbilt fans have been conditioned to lose and snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And so while I think that this season has been somewhat magical for them, it hasn't accumulated that much fan fervor because they've been beat down so much over the last, 50 years. And Vanderbilt has a very transient alumni population. They don't all stay in Nashville. Most of them are from parts unknown. And so they don't necessarily stay in Nashville.
And then James Hatfield says, going to go see Jonah Williams Friday night. How did his visit go last weekend? But before you answer that, Jerry, I want to read this comment from Mark Valdez. Jonah Williams was at College Game Day with a sign that read, "The best go to Texas." Hook 'em.
No, I mean, Jonah's all in on Texas. Obviously, official visits to Texas goes amazingly well on weekends like that. So yeah, Galveston ball. They're a fun team to watch. Yeah, because Jonah's an ultimate playmaker, and he's doing so with even more physicality as a senior, which happens with most skilled players as they get older and get stronger. They get even more physical. But they have other players. They got a kid, Phoenix Pope, off the edge. I think he's going to Louisiana Lafayette. I call it Louisiana Lafayette because when I say Louisiana, people are like, "Where in Louisiana?" Well, Louisiana Lafayette. He's a good player. He's a kid to watch for that goes and plays above a ranking and ends up in the portal in a couple of years. They have a receiver, London Dion. I think Colorado State, Boise, some of those teams are on him. They have a number of guys that are in that senior class. The junior quarterback, Caden Barker, has a number of Division I offers, G5 offers, good player. They have a junior receiver that's a D1 kid. So they have a lot of good skill kids on that team, which makes them fun to watch. But you'll enjoy that. It's one of the cool older in Texas. Not a lot of the older stadiums remain. We've all built up, and we're in the facilities race in high school football in Texas, building all the new schools and areas that have become so populated. But Galveston, they refurbished some of the stadium, but it's still one of the cooler old stadiums. I mean, that's a stadium that a lot of great players have played out coming through high school.
Hey, Jerry, what about Lufkin and Zion Williams? That's who they play, apparently. Anything on that? The big defensive tackle that's committed to LSU?
Nah, his girlfriend still goes to LSU.
Got it.
And really, he'll be fun to watch for the fans that are at that game. And that's a big game. I mean, that's a district championship game because the Galveston ball beat up on Port Arthur Memorial. So that will be a district championship game.
Our next super chat comes from Dante, and he says, our offensive line is fine. Sark will be more driven to be creative going against Georgia in the SEC championship. After Kirby's comments, the next game is personal.
Kirby was personal. He was personal. A little bit of an asshole. Excuse my French. I think that the problem I have with Kirby is he's sanctimonious. And he's looking at shoving a player one week and having 12 arrests, last couple of years. I mean, it's very sanctimonious. Like none of that mattered all that matters is what they did on Saturday night. And I think Sark and the team at some level should take that as a challenge. I hope they get an opportunity to show what they can do next year or later this year, whether it's in a conference championship game or in a playoff. Because I don't think Texas, like Georgia did not get Texas's best shot. I think Texas took Georgia's best right hook on the chin. I just want to say that.
Bobby, before we get to our last set of questions, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Laura Baker.
Yeah, guys, if you're looking to move to, from, or within the Austin area and are looking for a potential realtor, reach out to Laura Baker, big-time Longhorn fan, lifelong Austinite. So she's a real estate expert in the whole Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, Lake Travis area. Give her a call, 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. Reach out to her, Laura at Andy Allen Team as well. A longtime supporter of On Texas Football, and we appreciate her very, very much. Again, 512-784-0505.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And we got more super chats here. We're going to start with this one from Shillsbury. And Shillsbury, thank you for your super chat. More counters and traps for Blue. I love the show. Got to go or good to go. One of the two.
Yeah, what he's talking about there is quick hitters, where he gets vertical quickly, Jerry. Right? That's exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat earlier asked why didn't Blue get any carries against Georgia? He kind of sort of got, and I don't know the reason, that kind of sort of got pulled a little bit against Oklahoma. I'm not sure Georgia's the front you want to run him into necessarily.
Yeah,
I think this week against Vanderbilt, different.
Yeah, Sark said it wasn't purposeful that Blue didn't get a carry. It just happened because the game worked out that way. I mean, going down by 23, that'll change your plan of attack for sure.
And here's the thing too about Jaden Blue. He's at his best if he has 12 touches in a game, if he gets back to that point. 6 in the passing game, 6 in the running game, because the passes he catches are extension of the run game. So they're light carries. And he's a space player. And we talked about it before the season. And I know he had the good game, the 100+ yard game, but running him 12 to 15 times between the tackles, one, it's not what he is, and two, it's not how you're not maximizing his ability, his potential, and maximizing him as a player doing that. That's not what he is. That's square peg round hole. It's not going to work long term. You want to get him on the perimeter. You want to get the ball in his hands quickly on the perimeter. I mean, you see what he does when Texas can do that. I think Jaden Blue will have a good game Saturday. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. Now, it may be more in the passing game, but I do think he'll have some opportunities in the run game. I also think Jarrett Gibson may have some opportunities in the run game against Vanderbilt.
And I'm glad you mentioned Gibson because that's actually the subject of our next super chat from Texas Jasper. He says, I would love to see more 2-back sets with both Gibson and Blue.
Gibson has not been part of many 2-back sets.
Unless he's playing fullback, right? Which is a little track with him. Yeah.
I think that, part of this too is understanding of the offense and the motions. They don't motion Gibson a lot when he's been in. And I think that there's a level of comfort there that you have to have in 2-back sets, that you have to have those guys be willing and understanding of what their jobs are in motion and what you're asking them to do. I'm not so sure that Gibson's got that all down quite yet to play in 2-back sets.
And I want to say this because it goes into, because we'll be talking about this next year. That's what made Cedric Baxter such a tremendous player, because he walked into Texas and picked it all up. They could leave him on the field every play. They could do everything with the guy. That's very rare at the running back position for a freshman.
Next one's from Football Junkie, guys. Says, I would love to see Hill use more as an outside linebacker like Georgia used Walker, but Hill's having a strong season. I saw a stat that he is top 5 in sacks and tackles for a loss currently in the SEC.
He's having a great year.
Yeah.
So I agree with that comment. The reality of it is that they are playing him elsewhere. They are lining him up outside at times. I mean, Texas, I think, has done a really nice job on defense this season, utilizing guys like Anthony Hill and allowing, yes, they play him on the inside, but they've lined him up on the outside. They've blitzed him. You could want more, and I think that's fine. But we'll see. I don't know that Anthony Hill's as big as Jalen Walker, by the way. Anthony Hill's a fairly sizable guy. Jalen Walker may be 260, so.
And then we will close after this next couple set of questions. Brandon wants to know, how does Vandy's linemen stack up against Texas? Are there any matchups to watch?
So you're talking about offense or defense, I think, Vandy has a very run-oriented offensive line. Okay. They get after it a little bit. They have a couple transfers that they really like that have played well for them, but they are primarily run blockers. So Texas is going to have to be stout against the run. I think we'll see a lot of Jermaine Lole on Saturday, as opposed to Vernon Broughton at times. I think we'll see more Bill Norton, which we saw more Bill Norton against Georgia, by the way, when Georgia started gashing Texas in the run game and saw less of Vernon Broughton. So I think that's reality. As far as the Texas offense versus the Vanderbilt defense, Vanderbilt tries to get away, and it's typical, and it's not a negative, it's just typical. They try to get away with quicker defensive linemen than bigger. They can't get those big bonus-sized guys at Vanderbilt. They go to Georgia, Clemson, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, etc., Tennessee. So they have to do it with quicker guys. And so Texas absolutely has a size advantage. They got to make sure they keep that quickness advantage too over Vanderbilt. And if they can, and I think Texas can, Texas should be able to run the ball and control the football when they want to against Vanderbilt. Should. They got to go out and execute, though.
And then we'll follow up Brandon's question with one other question from Brandon. Does Vandy have an edge on Texas at any position?
Going to hate to hear this, but maybe quarterback. I don't. When it comes to pro quarterbacks, Quinn Ewers, like it or not, right now, or believe it or not, would be much higher rated than Diego Pavia. When it comes to college quarterback, I think I'd rate Diego Pavia ahead of him. Diego Pavia right now 16th in the country in Pro Football Focus ranking. Quinn Ewers is 230 by comparison. So if they have a advantage, it's that Pavia is matching his skill set with their offense better than Quinn is with Texas. Now they run the ball. They're an option team at times. Zone read, that sort of play. I mean, it's just like Tommy Frazier won 2 national championships at Nebraska and never played a down in the NFL. So I think Pavia right now is fitting his team better and the strengths of it than Quinn has been.
And by the way, I would say this too: as tremendous of a season as Gunnar Helms had, Eli Stowers, 33 catches for 465 right now. Yeah. He may be your all SEC tight end if Vanderbilt keeps winning games. So, by the way, somebody asked in the chat, thoughts on Jackson Arnold being back as starter. Hey, welcome back, Jackson. You have at Ole Miss, at Missouri, Alabama, and at LSU. Have fun with that.
Man, tough.
But you get going to make it out of this year. I mean, is he going to make it out of this year?
No.
You don't think? Yeah.
Who?
Venables. Is Venables going to make it out of this year?
If they only beat Maine, it's questionable.
How they do it too. I mean, man, they look bad. They've looked bad for weeks.
I mean, the reality for him is they're 4-3. If they lose at Ole Miss, you're 4-4. If you beat Maine, you're 5-4. But Missouri, Alabama, LSU, if you lose out and you go 5-7 in year 3, that normally gets guys fired. Now he just got a big contract extension.
5-7 in year 3.
Woo. If he goes 5-7, can they clip somebody? I mean, they got road games at Ole Miss, Missouri, and LSU remaining. They do have Alabama at home, who's on the struggle bus, but
they last 4
on the road.
They may play Missouri close. The other ones have too much firepower for them.
Hey, by the way, I always want to give a guy credit where credit is deserved. And people probably didn't see this because it was Auburn versus Missouri. But when coming out of SEC Media Days, I had really, really a lot of respect for Brady Cook because no matter much you want to think about Missouri, the guy's always wanted to be the quarterback at Missouri, and he wanted to help Missouri program get back. And it didn't start off well. Then he battled back, and they started winning with Drinkwitz. I don't know if people saw what happened in the Auburn game. He literally got smoked. They took him to the hospital. He returned to play the last quarter and a half of the game for Missouri and left him back on a win. He went to the hospital and said, no, F this, take me back. I'm playing in the game. I will always have the ultimate respect for that dude. Always.
Yeah, that's tough as nails.
That is toughness, man. Said, screw this, take me back. My team needs me.
After getting an MRI.
Yep.
Hats off to that young man.
We got one last super chat, fellas, that just rolled in from Tubin, Texas. And he says, Quinn took a big hit versus OU on his touchdown run. Hangover? ?
I don't think so, because that wasn't that big a hit, number one, in my opinion. And I think he got gun shy, and I don't know why, how, or what is the root cause. I thought maybe his injury was it, but Sark says he's healthy. I mean, I don't know, guys. He's gun shy for a reason. We need to work that out of him and get back on the horse. He is not going to have a clean pocket in the SEC. So how not on an every down basis. So how he operates in a dirty pocket is going to be the ceiling for this team, so long as he's the quarterback. That's why the emphasis on the quarterback play is so big. You don't have clean pockets traditionally in the SEC. There's too many good defensive linemen. And that's at Arkansas too, not just at Georgia. That's at A&M, not just Georgia. That's Florida. Too many dirty pockets. So you have to be able to operate within it. And there's Mark. It's his throwing thumb. That's what I'm saying. I think he's concerned about follow through and hitting it on top of a helmet again. That's the only thing I can get at.
Yep.
All right, Josie, yes, but you got to get him to the public finish line.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's edition of Coffee and Football, presented by MyBookie. We want to thank them, along with Flat Creek Duck Camp and Laura Baker, all for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in. The great questions, the super chats. Be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com. If you haven't become a member, you can very easily use promo code OTFOG when you sign up. You'll get a full year for $39.95. You can't beat that deal. Again, ontexasfootball.com, promo code OTFOG. Come join in on the discussion. Great community going on. And, of course, around-the-clock coverage as well. And, Bobby, what do you have later today right here on Texas Football YouTube channel?
Hey, I'll tell you what, it's not just me. It's Jerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel. You guys have been asking a lot of recruiting questions. Jerry and CJ are going to go into detail on that today. I think they both got some news to share with you guys. I'll sit down with Bob Shipley and Brian Irwin with our Lunch with the Coach. We also have the second watch with Rod Babers coming up today. He wasn't able to do it on Sunday. We got together late last night to tape that. Should be good. And then tonight, we've got Longhorn live stream, as well as, guys, I don't know if y'all have seen this or not, but if you are an OTF OG, you've noticed how the community on our website has grown so much. We appreciate it. Just visit us at ontexasfootball.com. Visit us in the message boards. Give us a call or give us a text, write, message, etc. Feel free to direct message us. Go to ontexasfootball.com. Be part of the community. Right now, you get a special. It's $39.95. We've had this special from the very beginning, and I'm going to continue it. And that is for $39.95. Become an OTF OG the first time you sign up on TexasFootball.com. Use that code OTF OG and join us. It's where, I love how the community's growing. I really do. And I think that it's turning out to be more than I could ever hope for, and I appreciate it.
And by the way, also I know we're all football all the time. Also had basketball scrimmage report up yesterday. Blake's got baseball stuff. We got basketball recruiting, basketball seasons. Shoot, scrimmage against Colorado and Austin Saturday, closed door. Have you all covered, man.
That's right. All right, guys. Well, we will be back at the same time, same place tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.